Today, we are here for 90 minutes with Mirjami to discover ways of shaping group dynamics, transcending conflict, and unlocking the power of shared learning. And I'm sure you all read the description, but there it is again, just as a reminder in case you showed up and you're like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing today. It's right there. And with that, I'm going to go kick out some unclaimed bots and turn it all over to you. Thank you so much for agreeing to bring this to our group.
Thank you, Elise. And hi, everyone. Really nice to be here. So we have another person coming in. Let me just share the screen and then share a little bit about the topic. Okay. Good. So, as you said also in the description, this is a workshop I had the pleasure to facilitate in San Diego, in warm and sunny San Diego in April when it wasn't warm and sunny in Finland, at the IAF conference. And there it was a face-to-face session. We had more time, and this is the version of it that Elise invited me to run. And it was a really nice session to hold, and I'm happy to repeat a version of it. Also because the topic is really dear to me, and I feel it's very kind of actual. There are so many complex problems we are all around the world that we need to tackle, and rarely they are tackled or solved by groups of similar people. We need to bring diverse people and groups together to discuss. And so I'm it starts from it's not an obsession, but close to like how to tap into the wider potential of the groups. It's not only about bringing the groups together, but what to do with them, because there is so much know-how, experience, wisdom also unknown to the individuals. So how to tap into that. Also groups of diverse people to tackle these challenges. And often there's an element of conflict there, because we are also in the era of high polarization. So kind of with these elements at hand, I wanted to bring this session also to learn myself. I'm not sharing more about my background. I think you can read from the bio or connect. I would be happy to connect with you afterwards as well. But this is what I do: facilitate groups and train and coach. So we will have today also a little bit of facilitation. Yes, it's a facilitated session. So you will bring your expertise. I will bring some tips as well from my experience, and there's a more kind of coaching kind of exercise at the end. So I hope you will gain some practical tools to shape group dynamics, and on one part it's about preventing useless conflicts. So I would argue not all the conflict is needed. We can prevent some of that, but then there is kind of conflict or debate or argument that is actually welcome and needed. So how to handle instead that one in group settings. So that's kind of one part. And the second big part is about what are you bringing as a facilitator to the session, because we don't come neutral, we don't come empty. We have our own baggage, we have our own personality, our past experiences, our own relationship with conflicts that for sure impacts. So just the idea is to give you some space to reflect upon it and think, what am I bringing to the sessions? And is there something I'd like to shape in that? So that's the idea. How does this sound so far? Give me some signs, thumbs up, down. Okay, thumbs up. Looks good. Double thumbs. Okay, good. So let's move forward. And about the roadmap, so we do a small warm-up. And then, yeah, there's I'll introduce the topic, and then you do some group work in breakout rooms on preventing on one part, handling on the other part. Then I will give some additional tips and tools, and then we go into the self-reflection part on facilitator as part of group dynamics. And then it's time to wrap up. And to start, in your Zoom name, please think of what's the first word that comes into mind when you think of conflict. And write that just next to your first name so that you can see there as an example. There should be mine. There is it. It says Mirjami, apple. So if the apple is the first word I think when I think of conflict, I would write there apple, but maybe it's something else for you. I'll just give you a moment.
Just one word?
Just one word. Yeah, the first word. Okay. Okay, we are getting there. So while you are still finishing, I'll explain the next piece of activity. So we'll do a small impromptu networking exercise in breakout rooms. So impromptu networking, it's from liberal structures, quick rounds of conversations. So we'll do a couple of them. So Elise will help in sending you into the breakout rooms. And the idea there is to explore what your peer facilitators have chosen as the words and maybe also the reasons beneath. So what made them choose that word? So be curious, listen to each other and be mindful of time because you only have 3 minutes and then we'll shuffle to a new group.
All right, ready to go?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, there you go. Conversation.
Yeah. All right, welcome back. Welcome back, welcome back. I hope you had good conversations. And it would
another minute, Elise, it was a good idea.
Okay. Yeah, this was quick rounds. It would be lovely to hear something, just something of what you discussed and what you discovered regarding thoughts in relation to conflicts.
Fast takeaway, Mirjami, if I may share here. Top of my mind, there are two kinds of conflicts, right? There's the healthy conflicts and there's the nasty conflicts, right? I think that we should put this on an equation.
Healthy and nasty. Constructive, destructive. Something that brings something good and doesn't bring anything good. What about others? What would you add?
Well, I'd say in the two groups I was in, there are some who felt their natural inclination was to think conflict was healthy and positive, and others thought it was something that should be avoided at all costs. So it was just interesting what leapt to mind for each of us when we thought about conflict. And I think it goes to your point earlier about we as facilitators, we bring certain perceptions and biases to a conflict, and that must have a lot to do with how we guide conversations.
Right. Is it something like we are curious about, interesting, let's explore this, or is it like, okay, let's keep it aside and move forward? Absolutely. Anything else? So this is, let me see. What about from, it would be lovely to hear also from room 3. We had there Alan, Malini, Diana, anything that popped out for you?
One underlying theme that we had was it's almost like each of the parties in the conflict, whether it have some subjective opinions which they were not able to surface for some time, and it heightens to a certain level where now it projects itself as a conflict to the other person's opinions. But having the conflict also allows you to air those opinions and, find that underlying mesh under it to see, like, where are we both stemming, both or many or whatever, like, where are we stemming from? So we can do that adjustment right there. And also, like how germination through death happens for a tree. That time we could say, like, there was in one of our other rooms, like it was considered as waste, but to say, like, probably that waste is going to allow for some new things to come out, some new options, but there's going to be waste of energy, waste of time, resources, everything. But at the same time, it's going to bring in something new, some new doors opening, some old doors closing. So, everything is happening in that space.
Nice, I like that. It's like volcanoes that need to erupt to remain healthy. So you need to air something, and as you said, it's an opportunity to build deeper level understanding and eventually, ideally, trust. So
and
nice.
Donnie and Diane, if you wanted to add more, thank you.
I think what struck me is that even though we had a similar outlook or associations with with conflict, the way we talked about it, maybe words or metaphors we used were different, and I think they were enriching. So that was quite interesting.
Thank you. So let's take one step forward, and soon you will get back to the breakout rooms. Okay, so this we did. So the etymology of conflict comes from Latin, the word confligere, and it comes of two pieces. So con, together, and fligere is like strike or hit. And it doesn't say, the word itself doesn't say that it needs to be striking against each other. It's like strike together. So then it has evolved, and we think it's like, okay, one against the other. But also when we think of kind of these polarized discussions, there's rarely one that has completely the truth and the other doesn't, but there are pieces of truth everywhere. And for me, I found it fascinating to think that if we instead think that we have a big challenge and we are striking together on the same side as allies to crack the problem, and how to change the perspective of participants also in the groups to that. So it's not like if my opinion is different from yours, that we are kind of in a conflict or one needs to win, but actually we have some pieces of truth, probably both, and how can we put those together to strike and crack the bigger problem? So that's just as a thought.
I still think we are in agreement. Like, if you disagree with me, then we are in conflict.
Yeah.
Right? So it is a positive thing that we don't agree on everything.
Yeah.
And there's no winner or loser. Like, if I listen to you, I think I win. If you listen to me, you win. If you would not listen, then you miss out on what the other person would say. So in a way, you choose to do it constructively or not, maybe, depending on your mood or so.
And as facilitators, we have a role in creating that kind of ground where people start to see, okay, actually it's a good thing, and we can learn from each other, and we can together collaborate to solve challenges.
Mhm.
So that also.
Yeah. I see it happening so much that people mention something. Sometimes I see eye rolling, but no one mentions it. And then I see that the impact of a facilitator could be like, okay, let's move on, or let's expand and get more professional facilitation on the floor, which they would not take the initiative. That's why they ask a facilitator to do that. But
Yeah.
that's not an always position that everybody appreciates, because that brings tension, and some people roll their eyes because they don't want to go into the tension also at that moment, for example.
Absolutely. So fascinating. I want to get you soon in the breakout rooms again. So maybe keep that in mind, Joris, because I think there's something you can work around that as well. So discerning and transforming. So that's really about, okay, good. As you said earlier, so there's the I think it was Paul, the healthy and the waste, the good and unnecessary. So and how to distinguish those. So that's then now the exercise for you. So what I would like you to do in the next 15 minutes in the breakout rooms, and you can choose if it feels like a lot of work for 15 minutes, just choose what feels most rewarding, most beneficial for you. But the idea was to think about some examples, concrete examples of unuseful conflicts. Like for me, an example could be, for example, that we have a conflict on what should we be doing in this meeting. So that could be an unuseful conflict that we could have avoided. And then think of 3 useful conflicts that actually would be worth having. And for the unuseful, how to prevent them, for the useful, how to transform them in a learning opportunity. So what to do as a facilitator. So you can decide how to go about with it in the 15 minutes. But it would be lovely to hear something afterwards, what you came up with. So maybe share 1 or 2 things from each room. Any questions at this point? No. So I think we are ready to go. Okay, welcome back. Was that a lot of time or not that much? From 1 to 5.
I'd say we maybe a little more time.
Was to find 1 useful and 1 unuseful. I think we would have landed it.
Okay, let's hear from let's start from room 3. What would you like to share? So that was Joris, Nancy, Alan, and Jerry.
I will speak for the group, but I'm not going to do the best job. We talked a lot about, we delved more into unuseful conflicts. I believe Joris, you talked about large group dynamics being kind of difficult to navigate. And I talked about power dynamics and how, just not relinquishing some of the power to the rest of the team, or collaborating in a way that can lead to resolution. Definitely is an unuseful conflict. We also talked about the use of tools in a virtual setting that could be useful. Nancy brought up participatory decision-making and in a way how to use, and I'm going to mess this up, Nancy, because I've not read this book. but there's a scale 1 to 8. I'm pretty sure all of you wonderful facilitators know about this scale that I have just learned about. And using that to kind of understand where you are on the scale, and before you share it out, you kind of talk it out in the group about why you chose what you chose, and then go around giving everyone a chance to hear each other. And then once you hit enter, or you might have already hit enter and seeing where everybody is on the scale, kind of talking about that to bring out, you know, the differences and seeing where you may have been biased and seeing what rises to the top as far as consensus and resolution. And I think that was more so on the useful sides of conflict and being able to transform a group into, you know, coming and dealing with the conflict that they may have.
Nice.
And Nancy, you may want to add something, but that's as good as I got with my memory.
I think you did a masterful job. I think you got it all.
Nice. Yeah. And I was thinking about the participatory decision making. It's it's a way also to improve the decision with those diverse voices. So when you hear from people and what doubts, what concerns they have, you can modify the decision and make it even better. But you need to have a clear criteria beforehand on what makes a good decision. What kind of decision are we looking for, so that it's not debating on everyone's personal kind of feelings or perceptions, but actually against a preset criteria. And the power topic, that also came a lot in the earlier workshop. So that plays a big role, definitely. And sometimes it can be an opportunity, but sometimes maybe someone higher in the hierarchy, if they are somehow an obstacle, it's very difficult to make that constructive. But let's hear from room 2. So Malini, Diana, Stephen. What would you add?
Diana and Stephen, please jump in as I try to summarize. One of the not useful conflicts that we were discussing was like having unresolved personal issues, which reduces collaboration in a group. So, and also it brought about the role of the facilitator. It's not only facilitating, there can be moderating, different hats that the facilitator wears. And what's the agenda of this overarching meeting, and finding things that would be, even in this unresolved personal issues, which is reducing the collaboration, how can we channel the energy that will be useful for this meeting and the work that needs to be done between meetings so that it could flow better, and also a little bit of pre-work on the facilitators' plate in knowing what is this group, who are participating, and their personalities, and any of these unresolved opinions that may come. Probably there's some interviews that needs to be done with the participants ahead of time. So there could be a good grip in the meeting. And
Really good.
Diana and Stephen, please add more. Thank you.
Thanks.
That was pretty good. That was good.
Awesome. Yeah, so sometimes the conflict is kind of created by something that has nothing to do with the actual, oftentimes I guess, with the actual goal of the meeting. So it's a side topic, but it's maybe the wrong place to have then that conversation. So either of the wrong topic, or maybe we are also discussing on the wrong level, so that it's easy to deviate to a kind of to a level of conversation that is not needed in that meeting. For example, conflicting on details that are not relevant to reach the objective of the meeting. So it's good to be, I think it's super important to be alert on the clearer you have the goal in mind and the better the participants have the goal in mind, easier it is also to discern what is worth having conflict and what to leave aside. Let's go to room 1.
Yes. I'd say we also talked probably more about unuseful conflict than we did useful conflict. And appreciate the comments from the other groups around like the power dynamics and unresolved personal issues. We also talked about potentially when the concept, the phrase was used like when conflict's ingrained in egos. I think that relates to the power dynamics a lot. When people are in survival mode, we may be in like have some conflicts there that is harder. It takes a different kind of tool set or skill set to work through conflict when people are in survival thinking. There's more black and white thinking and, defending myself or protecting myself. We also talked about when people just are not on the same page, they're not really talking about the same thing. We think that they are, but they're not. So there's not good alignment about what's really going on in the moment or what's needed in the moment. And when we've lost sight of the issue and the outcome really is irrelevant. We've just gotten so caught up in the emotions. So we talked about some of those as unuseful conflict. 2 ideas of useful conflict we came up with are when there are clearly or what appears to be like generational differences or personality differences. Those are really great learning opportunities to get more things out on the table. And now it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to resolve a conflict in a way that's amenable to everybody in the room, but they are great learning opportunities to expand thinking. So those were some of the things that we talked about.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, the survival mode caught my attention because it is true that when we have high stress or when we know that the group is under high stress, there's less flexibility, there's less patience to listen to understand. And that's something I'm thinking also often, like what could be, how could we offer the groups the possibility to somehow calm down, and is there something we can do as facilitators, even if we can't influence what's happening out there in the organization or in their lives, but is there something we can do to help them calm down and somehow open up in the beginning to enable the more fruitful conversations?
Yeah, it says it in the slide, huh? Me, we, us.
Sorry?
The magic, the thing in the slide where you're sharing. Me, we, us, the magical emergence conversation.
Yeah.
That's what I use a lot. Really.
Yeah. Simple but effective. So a few additional thoughts. I somehow found this useful, the metaphors from music, from cacophony to symphony. Like if you are in the in a concert, classical music concert, and the musicians are just according in the beginning, everyone at the same time, and there's a huge cacophony. Everyone is doing their own melodies, different melodies at the same time. And then when it starts, it's all in melody and it's all harmony, and they complement each other. So I think for me it works as a metaphor to groups, because it's not about doing something unwanted, but maybe that there's often the question of pace or the time, and there's time for everything, and maybe not doing everything at the same time. So a few thoughts. First of all, ensure everyone is playing the same song. So that's a quite probable conflict if people think that they are playing different songs, that everyone has their own song in mind, but they are different. So and sometimes we need to be really kind of super clear and explicit, maybe beforehand and in the beginning of the session, what it is about and what it's not about. And also sometimes, as I said also earlier, the level of detail. Like we are here, we will be talking, generating ideas for our summer party activities, but we are not talking about what food exactly we will have at the summer party, for example. So sometimes it's useful also to give the examples that we are not debating whether fish or meat or just everything vegetarian, but just kind of overall ideas. And of course, ground rules also. So what kind of participation is supporting the objective? So kind of basic things, but which allow us to everyone to play the same song. And it's also sometimes the facilitator can help the group to see the value of different instruments. So it depends where the group is, but sometimes it may be like that our argument is about, we are here all violins and there we have one trumpet. So they are different. Like they are not playing like we are. And it can be just really useful for maybe to somehow voice it out, how actually it's great to have really different views and what's the benefit for the group. So often it's about inviting the group to kind of take a wider perspective. And of course, we can also direct the thinking with open questions. So especially if we have maybe participants who are very stuck to their or feeling very strong about their own opinions, maybe just asking what's a completely new perspective you've heard today is already a way that gently forces them to open their thinking and look for new ideas. Or how would you complement with your idea with those of others? So not only like yes, no, but kind of, again, taking a more constructive approach. So kind of small things. And yes, then there's a time for yes, and there's a time for no. But let's not have them together at the same time. So there are lots of different methods for that. The learning matrix comes from the agile world, and it's a matrix with 4 quadrants. There's a happy face, a sad face, the light bulb, and the flower. And the happy face is what has been good. For example, it'd be a retrospective, what has been good in our project. And the sad face, so what didn't go that well. And the light bulb is about what new did I learn. And the flower is who do I want to show my gratitude, or who do I want to say thank you. But I think in all these facilitation methods, it's about maybe people do get in that debate mode, and then it's just about structuring it. Yes, we will get there in a moment, but let's focus first on what was good about it. Even if it was something small, but what worked? To help again expand thinking and understanding. Okay. So time goes so fast, so it's time to move forward and look at ourselves, facilitator as part of group dynamics. What do we bring into the room, and how does that impact the group's ability to face and handle conflict? It was, I don't remember the first name, O'Brien, who said that the group's, how did it go? The group's capacity the quality of intervention depends on the capacity of the intervener, something like that. So I kind of tend to think that if you are not ready to go very deep because there are some topics that you feel uncomfortable about, how can the group then go deeper than you are ready to go? And I will show you a list of potential unbalances or ways in which we might get unbalanced as facilitators that are inspired by Enneagram. I'm an Enneagram coach as well, so you don't have to know about it, but just for you as a background. And just be curious and think, okay, could this be me? Kind of while we look at them. So are you potentially focusing when conflict emerges? Are you potentially focusing too much on controlling the process? Like, okay, this is what we need to do next. Prioritizing harmony at the expense of addressing underlying issues. Or prioritizing superficial solutions or quick fixes to maintain appearances rather than addressing deeper issues. Yes, we did get the action plan done. Are you overly focused on your own emotions, potentially losing sight from broader context, or risking to get stuck in over-analysis of the conflict, delaying action and decision-making? Relying heavily on authority figures for conflict resolution, avoiding to confront conflict directly and instead focus on positive aspects or distractions, so kind of positive vibes. Seeking to control or dominate the conflict resolution process, so very kind of controlling approach, becoming passive or indifferent to the conflict. So you don't have to answer, but this is kind of just for you to reflect. And for the next exercise, it's great if you would have a piece of paper and a pen or a marker, something at hand. Or if not, then maybe you can use a digital board. But try also to really listen to yourself and find the truth, be open to the truth, because I think often we don't think it's like what we come in with in the room. So be open to listen to yourself while doing this exercise. And what I'm asking you to do is to draw 2 t-shirts in your own perfect way. And they can take the space of the whole paper. And as you maybe see, one is the front of the t-shirt and the other one is the back of the t-shirt. This is a small, nice coaching exercise from Inner Life Skills, with whom I have studied coaching. And now on the front of the t-shirt, think about how do you want to appear as a facilitator when it comes to handling conflicts? What do you want to come in with and show to the group? Think of some adjectives. So here's just one example. Like, okay, maybe I want to be a neutral facilitator. But whatever is true for you. And once you are ready, on the back side of the t-shirt, think of elements that are part of you, but that you would actually avoid showing in these situations. So you would kind of prefer them to stay on the back and not visible to the group. And once you are ready, so look at the words that you have written on the back of your t-shirt and keep the same idea, but maybe some more positive words. So maybe if I had the example of, I don't want to show my insecurity, maybe what could be a possible, like, imagine insecurity holds a treasure in it, something valuable. So what is that? So maybe it's being more human, showing my human side. So that could be the more positive wording. So think of the other side of the coin for those words. And the last piece. Now let's go back to the front side of the t-shirt. So is there anything you might add now on the front side of your t-shirt from the positive wordings that you found in the back to be more whole, more yourself, more you in the room? So yeah. Anything you would like to add? And we could now take a moment of discussion in pairs in breakout rooms on what came out. Maybe there's something you can further add while discussing with the pair. So you will have 10 minutes. So this is an abundant amount of time to discuss and further reflect.
We have one group of 3.
Okay.
So, all right.
Okay, welcome back. And we have a few more.
3, 2, 1.
Okay.
We are small and mighty few.
Yes. The strongest who have made it to the end. Almost. So how was that? As an exercise, you don't need to share the details.
I loved it. Paul, you're on.
I love these coaching exercises. I wish that Zoom had AI algorithm to turn off the mute when it discovered someone's trying to speak. It will come that way.
Oh no, it would be so awful. It'd be like all the times I'm yelling at my dog and I'd be off mute all of a sudden.
No, because AI will be clever, Elise. She would understand.
Yeah, at some point.
And I'm saying she because AI was invented by a woman.
So, so it starts to be time to wrap up. So we looked a little bit at the words we associate to conflict in the beginning. You remember with the impromptu networking. We looked at the etymology of conflict, word conflict, and how we could change perspective there. You did a little bit of group discussion on discerning valuable, useful from useless conflicts, and what to do, how to prevent, how to help the group with the useful one. Some from cacophony to symphony ideas, practical tips, and then the t-shirt exercise on what are you bringing to the room idea. So with that, I'm done, but I would love to hear just a word or two from each one of you. What are you taking from this session? And what about Nancy?
Yeah, I just want to say, I love that last exercise, thinking about how to take a look at what I see as my what my frailties, my vulnerabilities, and then turn them into positive. And I was paired with Malini in the debrief, and she just said something at the end that it was just a big light bulb for me, and that was to ask the group, let's assume we're facilitating, there's a conflict, to ask the group, what could I give you? What could I contribute as a facilitator that would help lower the barrier to collaboration? And I just thought that would be a great question to ask when you don't know what to do. So thank you, Malini, for that.
I love that. Thank you, Nancy. So Malini was mentioned. Would you like to go next?
Thank you very much, Nancy. It was wonderful working with all the trios and duos that I had the opportunity. And thank you, Elise, for making this happen for all of us. So many insights, but one thing that I want to share, Mirjami, is that I feel these opportunities allow us as facilitators also to deepen in our capacity to facilitate and find these new nuances. And also able to reach out to different communities, sharing this and getting voicing it and having opinions and experiences shared, so we can bring back to the room and make it more colorful, more how should I say, energizing the room and getting that movement forward, right? Like that's isn't that our intention, to get a movement forward, and also allowing us to have more agency to go, to zoom in and zoom out of many levels. So thank you.
Thank you. I love those reflections. Outi. Sorry, I can't hear you. No. No. Maybe?
Would it help now?
Yes.
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 Okay, good. Okay, but yeah, I loved the t-shirt exercise, although I was struggling with the words, but ChatGPT managed to help me, so I found the right words at the end. But I think it's a really nice exercise which you can use for other questions as well, and other things than this. So that's something that I will take with me. So thank you, Mirjami.
Thank you. And it was quite a short time, so it may be good also to get back to your t-shirts in a couple of days or so for a moment, and maybe new things come up. Paul.
So thankful to Elise and you, Mirjami. This is so important for our self-development to attend these kind of sessions. I love the reflection points when you were just putting there the slide in silence and with questions, and it was so amazing. And especially this last slide image is nice. But I have a final question, if I may, Mirjami. What's Apple on your description?
Yeah, Elise asked it as well. It was just to not guide you anywhere. I didn't want to put a positive or a negative or anything kind of that would direct your thinking. So I thought Apple is neutral. So
Can I share what I thought Apple was for in a conflict?
shortly, yes.
Yeah, because you never know when you bite an apple if it's good or bad.
Ah, true. Thank you. And Elise, I give the word to you.
All right, we're done. Thank you, everybody, so much. If you don't still have it open, please open the feedback form, because reflection in writing is so much easier to look at again later. And we'll get this recording up sometime in the future. You know where to find it. And we don't have anything scheduled for the summer yet, but we may. And we will definitely have things scheduled in the fall. So we'd look forward to seeing all of you again. Thank you so much, Mirjami. It was really wonderful for you to
It was great.
donate and trust your time with us. Cool exercise, like the t-shirt. And we're really grateful to have spent this time with you all.
Oh, my
And with
pleasure.
that,
To everyone for joining.
Yeah, thanks, Mirjami and Elise, for keeping us going and encouraging and enabling these conversations that are so important. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank
Have a
you.
great day.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.